Hey, this is Senior and Disability Services Care Coordination Info Share. I'm Delight Mells, one of the training specialists, and I'm joined by the training team and our care coordinator liaison or care coordinator support, Kat Sawala-Pinskas. And Kat, do you happen to have our agenda for the day? I know we're still, as we're letting folks kind of slowly filter in, we can put up the agenda for folks to look at.
Okay, give me 1 second.
That's perfect because we need a little bit of time.
Let me close my emails and things so we don't get pop-ups when I'm sharing my screen.
We know you're going to get somebody emailing you.
Uh,
Have it. You want me to show?
oh, do you have
Sure,
it?
Carol.
Okay.
That would be great.
I'm just trying to, get my team settled and my emails settled so I don't get pop-ups.
Awesome, Kara. Thank you. Did you want to go ahead and start off the special topics?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Thanks everybody for coming to our meeting, our monthly meeting again, as always. We had some inquiries about delays in getting medical documentation, specifically QDCs and VODs, and we wanted to share. I mean, we'll send this to you by email. It's we know when you get your email that says keep this email, because as you know, these count for 1 hour care coordinator CEH credit. This is an oldie but a goodie, and it's possible you can see it right now. It says help SDS helpful info email. You see that? Okay, so this is just an info document that we sent out in 2022 about helping care coordinators to get medical documents and required forms back from medical providers. Um, we had some ideas that we shared at that time, which we just wanted to bring up again as helpful. If you're having delays in getting these documents, you can report your experience um, at this address. You can make a statement that it's a quality assurance report. This is actually our intake, which is CIR intake. It doesn't say CIR, a regular intake. Okay, so just use the form and this link, and it is you want to make sure that when you get to the first narrative, because as you know, the CIR is built to look like and act like and function like and be a report of harm, abuse, neglect type of thing. It's the form we have, but you can use it for this purpose as well as other purposes. When you get to the first narrative part, just put in a statement that it's a quality assurance report, the name of the medical provider or clinic, the date you requested the info, how you requested it, the date and any method of acknowledgement, like if you got an email back or something like that, put that in there. Any follow-up dates that you requested the info and the date you needed the info by. So this will help us track these instances and hopefully reach out and be able to solve this overall. Some suggestions about helping it happen: call the office ahead and ask how long it usually takes to get waiver-related documents signed. Verify the best method. Is there somebody there, specific staff, who should be receiving this information? Instead of just sending it to, anonymous fax, can you make it attention to somebody? When you request it, say it's for the waiver or CFC, and it's for medically necessary supports for the person to live in their home and community, and give the deadline by which you need those documents returned. If we don't give a deadline, sometimes people just put it aside and think, well, I don't know how important this is, so I'm going to just set it over here. And just make sure to work ahead, allow enough time for your own work on the application and reapplication process and the medical provider you'll be working with. Sometimes we hear that people are asking for documents, and they needed them tomorrow or yesterday or something like that. it's best to work ahead and give people time to get these things done. Overall, most offices are short-staffed, especially office or support staff like that. So, give people the best chance that you can. And when those things don't work out, then you can follow up with an intake report on the CIR form with these aspects to it. All right, we'll send that out to you in an email follow up to this meeting.
Hey, Kara,
Yeah.
the only thing I wanted to
Mhm.
add to that is, and you already talked about
Mhm.
it, just maybe emphasize to give the provider and office enough time. So, when your application is going to be due, you have to submit in 90 days ahead of time. So start working ahead of time to get those documents. Folks are short staffed. I don't think that 5 days or even 10 days sometimes is
Mhm.
enough time for them to do a turnaround. I know some care coordinators usually get these documents 30 days in advance, or start getting them 30 days in advance. So you have a month's time to get it.
Mhm.
But that's been probably the most helpful feedback I've heard. And then
Mhm.
Denise put in a comment, put it in the chat to include that director's memo we have about not
Mhm.
charging for medical documents.
Yeah,
And that
I
they
don't.
do have limited time, like 5 days, to provide the documents.
Mhm. We don't have this queued up to show here today, the director's memo, but it is available on our main website under director's communications, I believe. And that's a memo that just says that folks can't charge for documents. They can't charge the person or anybody else for requesting those documents. So we do have that. Okay, a shared tip here to type in time sensitive. Do not hold for primary provider. Most offices will hold even if a provider is on vacation. Great. Some think they need a visit to fill it out, so follow up and make sure they don't wait. Yep, that sounds like something that happens quite a bit. Yeah, they might think that it's following up on there's been a visit or going to be a visit to their office or something like that. A lot of times people in these professional offices, medical offices, are not super aware of waiver programs. They're built on medical necessity, but they just have their own work in their mind when they're looking at these things, which is just the way it is. Okay, great. Thank you for the links. These are awesome. Appreciate that. And thank you for the tips. Okay, so we made a new resource for you. Actually, our team member Damon Silva made a new resource for you in the SDS Training Academy. It's called a resource library, and you just log into your user profile, your learner profile in sdstraining.ethinksites.com, and you should be able to see it. It has all kinds of documents that are frequently requested. The care coordination, training guide, the latest T24. We've developed an easy read waiver process document, which you could use to help individuals and families understand how the system works and who does what. There's tip sheets in there that are about assessment that are updated, not to replace the pamphlets and things like that we have on the website at all, but just to help with a little bit more detail. Now that assessments are beginning to be done in person again, not in 100% of the cases. There may be lots and lots of, telehealth style assessments, or even document review, very case specific, but we thought we'd offer that. So you can go in there and grab those things, and we'll be adding to it. So when you go into our academy, please just take a moment to search through that course and see if there's any documents in there that you might need. You can go ahead and download them. All right, a few more tips about getting the documents. I found that half the time either the office didn't receive the fax, so they reported to have sent it, but the care coordinator didn't receive it. Follow up right after sending a fax request. When will in-person assessments start again? As I understand it, they have started already. And this is mostly for your initial assessments for a new person, like a new, applicant to the waiver. And nothing is different about what our IDD assessment process has been like. Okay. Okay. And then there was a tip about knowing a person when you're working with a large facility. It may help to know if you have that person's medical record for the person with that medical facility and give them 30 days. Mhm. All right, so this is our special topics section here. We'll send these out to you. Um, would you like to pick up with waiver and CFC inquiries and AppK and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I could take the next bullet point. So just a quick reminder from, and it's generally the CAP unit. For waiver and CFC inquiries, you do have to submit 2 separate inquiries. I know on the ACC form, there's an option to select waiver plus CFC, and that's great, and you could use that. But you do have to submit a second inquiry. So if you're doing an ALI waiver, you're submitting the inquiry to get access. You're also submitting the CFC inquiry, and you can use the same ACC form for that, the one that says waiver plus CFC. There's been some feedback from CAP review unit, the folks that process these saying they've done some kickbacks. There's some also that I had processed when I was helping them, saying when I accepted the one inquiry, and then it turns out that the CFC was selected in error on that ACC form. So just to be safe, do 2 separate inquiries for waiver and for CFC. The next bullet point is the Appendix K flexibilities ending. That's coming up in a month and then some, couple of weeks, right? The end of June. Just make sure you review the FAQs. Those were sent out some time ago, and I could send them out again just as a reminder. And if you have any questions about any of the changes coming up, let us know. I don't know if anybody wants to take the next topic or to talk about it. The use of electronic signatures. I'll talk about it. There's a link in the agenda if you could download it. It's the director's memo, and it's just a quick reminder that we are accepting electronic signatures at SDS. I know DPA is not, and there's been some conversations about that. The DPA is not accepting them, but SDS is accepting electronic signatures on all documents, including QDCs, support plans applications. We are not accepting attestations. And we stopped doing that a while ago. So you can use electronic signatures. If you get pushback from anybody, maybe they missed that information, just let me or training team know, and we could follow up with them and remind them. But it's been going pretty well. The feedback has been that this is super helpful to everybody to be able to use electronic signatures. And if you review the memo, the link is in there. If you review the memo, it gives you examples of what's considered an electronic signature and what's accepted and what's not accepted. Delight or Kara or Cassandra, do you guys want to take the proposed regulation changes topic?
Sure, I can talk about that a little bit. So there's been quite a few regulatory packages coming through. We've had in the past year, there's been quite a few happening over time. Right now, the most recent package that's open is specific to CFC and personal care services. So you received a e-alert about a month ago about this regulatory change coming up. And what is happening this week. This week, they're holding the hearing on those regulatory changes. So, as you can see from the agenda, we do have the online public notice system up. We've looked at that before a couple of different times in the info share. We encourage you to go ahead and check that out or go back to the original e-alert to look at the regulatory changes and participate in the upcoming hearing. You can participate via Zoom, where you can click in or you can call in and you can give your feedback to the changes that are occurring. So that's the big to do this week that I highly encourage all care coordinators that work a lot with CFC and PCS to take a look at those changes and reach out to policy if you have any questions. And from there, we've covered pretty much our items. The last of the agenda is really our resources that we have for you guys every week, including our office hours for care coordinators, providers, families, and then, of course, links to the YouTube channel, the policy channel, and the training academy. So this is the portion of our time where if you have questions or if you have concerns, you are welcome to chat them in or unmute yourself and bring them up and we can discuss them.
And this is recorded for YouTube, so remember, no PHI in discussion or in the actual display.
So
Thank
Delight
you.
and Kara, it looks like we got a couple of questions in the question box. If we want to start with those before people unmute themselves.
All right, sure. I'm looking.
I don't know if we want to go with this one. Will we have a new appointment of care coordinator prior to 7/1/24?
A new appointment of care coordination form. Will we have a new appointment of care coordination form?
That's a good question. I don't know. We will bring that back to the policy team. I know there's changes in the care coordination visit requirements that are listed in the ACC form, which I guess the old form now. So we will bring that back to the teams and report back. I would assume we will change it, but it's not, I don't have a date for that yet.
And there's a question about Tele 01. At our last info share, we talked about Tele 01, the form. And have there been any updates to that form?
Kara, this is Susie. So I was the one that wrote the question, and kind of the idea is, can we get rid of it? Because for the most part, it's not needed, and the assessors are already asking all of those questions. So just following up, since we talked about it last time.
You know, I think we brought that to the team, but we did not get an answer yet because of the, there's just been a lot of different staffing and things like that here, some staff shortages and some new staff. But I thought we brought that up. Does that sound right, Kat, or is it?
I thought we asked, but then we had some folks leaving, so we'll bring that up again.
We'll bring it up again. There's new people working in the assessment unit, which is sort of just forming right now. Okay, it says Eli emailed me last month and said I needed to submit the form. Okay, this is all good to know. I don't have an update or an answer about that, but it's good to bring it back to their attention for sure. There was a question about somebody asked for an in-person assessment and was told they weren't going to get one, was told they will not do it. Who to follow up with? Oh, okay, Kat, you already answered. Email Kat the details with the Harmony ID. there's many different conditions that could be impacting that specific to the person. Okay, Denise, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, let me lower my hand. I had two things. One, I think everybody needs to look at the CFC one and comment, because it does remove care coordinators from having to do some of the things that care coordinators are responsible to for CFC. So those care coordinators who are actively involved in CFC, who are happy that that is shifting back to the folks who know it best, we all need to put our 2 cents in on about that. Because maybe the agencies are putting their 2 cents in about, no, we like it the way it was. So there's no guarantee how this goes unless we make our comments and ourselves known. And I did post about it on the Facebook group. And then the other thing I'm going to say is that appointment of care coordinator, if we could look at when we change that, really all the things that happen in a transfer. With Harmony now, there's literally nothing I need from a care coordinator. Once I have access to Harmony, I have everything I need. The power of attorney is in there. The past amendments are in there. It's all up to date. So we may be able to slim down all that stuff in that appointment of care coordinator form. And I rarely have ever gotten case notes, so they can stay, but nobody ever really gives those out anyway. But that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Making notes. Thanks, Denise.
Yeah, good thoughts. Question about respite. How does SDS define primary caregiver? It sounds like you have a case specific thing going on where a person is with paid staff part of the time and with family the other part of the time. That's fine. I think if for that particular situation, you should probably email us and explain it, or you could come to our office hour. The respite definition is pretty simple. It's unpaid care when the person, it's a replacement caregiver for an unpaid person who's providing care. So that being said, a person can be a PCS worker and receive respite if they're the main unpaid provider. They provide some PCS and then some part of the day is unpaid care. If they're going to have respite, then their plan is going to have to show what the respite worker does to replace the unpaid piece of the day. It's gonna describe what the unpaid part is done. But that's essentially that's it. It's unpaid. It's a worker to replace what the unpaid person does. And in some cases they could be a paid caregiver, but they're getting a break during the time that they're not being paid. Typically that's like family caregivers also providing paid PCS or something like that. I don't know. I hope that's helpful. Okay, example, I had a family who visit daily and provide unpaid support. I was able to justify they needed respite. It's about the justification. I've never had anyone who was paid at all get respite. Okay, I get that. Respite is just to replace the unpaid caregiver. There are folks that are, somebody who lives with the person and provides for the bulk of their care for no pay. And then they provide specific services during the day. They can qualify for some respite. The plan just has to state that it's, what are they going to do and when are they going to do it, and that they get a break because they're a main unpaid provider. And there are, regs that like disallow respite entirely because the entire day is paid, like for the 24 hour out of home. It's not even going to have respite in the plan.
So, Kara, I dropped in the regs for the definitions. So when you look at the home and community-based block of regulations, the very bottom is the definitions section. So that is always the best place to take a look when you're trying to figure out, is this defined somewhere? So I would take that from home and community based, but I can now go pivot towards PCS and CFC and see what we have over there as well, because sometimes they're not defined the same. I don't want to say that one way or another. I'm just saying you have to double check. That's all.
Mhm. It is possible that folks at SDS will ask for more information around respite if it's not clear that it's a worker to replace the unpaid or when that will happen. So they may ask for more info. Mhm. Could be somebody to look in on the person if they're not, providing the maximum allowable amount of respite. If they're not doing that much care for the person, then you wouldn't ask for that much respite. You would ask for same amount of respite as, suppose my neighbor checks in on me and then they're going away for 2 weeks. Well, I need somebody to check in on me just like the neighbor did. That's how I would ask for respite for something like that. Okay, thanks for your thoughts on the appointment for care coordination.
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes.
Mhm.
We're having conversation in the chat, but I'm also taking notes.
Mhm.
And there was a question about Tefra, and Tefra is not on there because ACC is not required for Tefra. Technically, um, it's Comagen that lets us know who the care coordinator is, and we're just contracted by them to do the assessment. So we don't require. You can do it, but we don't require ACC for Tefra. And we have had this discussion before with leadership and with the Comagen folks, and the decision was made not to create Tefra in that dropdown.
What other thoughts and questions do you have? You can unmute, jump in, raise the hand.
Do we know how many assessors we have working right now?
Not off the top of my head, but we could count the influx sites of the nursing and influx assessment units. They're fully staffed, and then IDD is the one that is not. So we could take a look at the org charts and do some math and let you know. But we do have a lot of new assessors who are still undergoing training, so maybe they have not been released to the world unsupervised to do assessments. But we can do some calculating and let you know. Sure. Who asked that? Sorry.
Susie.
Okay, great, thank you. So I can get back to you.
Yeah, thanks. I was also curious about reviewers. Are we fully staffed on reviewers? I know IDD you said not so much, but
Not IDD, but the review side it is. So we could,
Okay.
I could certainly count that up, and when I send my email blast later today, I could include that information in there.
Thanks.
Thanks for your ideas about the form. Best thought I could think of here is we can collate them, and not just from this group. This is a great group, but we don't have everybody. And ask the team how they want to, get feedback about what works. Of course, we're happy to provide that. But our form update folks could, you know, reach out or provide some kind of an information or a a session just for that, or something else that I can't even think of in order to get that form done? Go ahead.
And we'll absolutely bring that back to, and it's our policy team that handles form changes.
Yeah.
So we'll bring that back. And really quickly, there's a great chat going on about, I've never seen that. I know you probably have forms saved on your computer and you're using forms, but sometimes we make changes to forms and we don't always send an e-alert that a form has been changed. It may be noted on the forms page. So we always use the most recent forms that are on our forms website. So the ACC form has an option where you could pick waiver, and then CFC doesn't say which waiver, but on the inquiry, when you're submitting an inquiry, you could pick the waiver. Or there's a box in a comment, you could do that. So you could use the waiver plus CFC as, for the inquiries. And that saves you doing 2 separate ACC forms. But we'll bring the feedback back that maybe it would be better served if it was a blank fill-in. So we'll let you know what the team say.
So I'm seeing a lot of chat about, when does CFC get closed? And as part of the process, if there is not a PCS agency and there's been the selection of CFC PCS, they will move it to suspend no PCS agency. If there's a closure going on for CFC, that's something unique. So it's possible to move forward through the level of care in the process, and there be a suspend on the CFC for no PCS agency, but closure would mean that something else is going on. It could be related to DPA, it could be related to a variety of things, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's a full closeout if other parts, especially if it's a combo where you have both waiver and CFC going at the same time. It'll just suspend one program. They will close out CFC if there is no agency. It's in that suspend status for, I believe it's 30 days. Don't quote me on that because it might be longer, but 30 days is typically the time frame we go with. And then the CFC PCS portion closes. But if you have CFC in like PERS or another part of CFC, it just switches it to that CFC without personal care services. CFC is tricky because there's so many different threads or trails that it can go down depending on the service package that you have. But one of the stops along the way, if you can't find the agency, is a suspend of CFC for no PCS, and then it eventually moves to closure. So you should see that program status change over time.
Does the same thing happen with if you can't find an assisted living home with an ADL waiver? This is Jimmy.
Hey,
Change
Jimmy.
of topic. Hi.
Yeah, it's okay. So it wouldn't close. You can always keep a waiver open, with care coordination services. So it wouldn't necessarily close. There might be other reasons why there's closure, such as like DPA snafu, where maybe they didn't get their reapplication turned in. That can result in a closure. But it wouldn't be, there isn't a closure specific to placement in an ALH. That wouldn't be a reason for closure.
Okay.
So mine was, this is Lex. Mine was going on, like I had submitted, she already had an approved waiver. They decided that they wanted to do CFC because they wanted to add the PCA.
Okay.
As the two days after the level of care for CFC was given, just 2 days, a worker started to close everything out. The agency had already submitted their inquiry. The worker had started to close everything out and had already sent a letter to the power of attorney letting them know of the closure. Like, didn't even get a 5-day courtesy.
That is unusual. Would you be able to send that case to Kat? Yeah, because that's an unusual protocol. I can't really think of a reason why that would happen. I'm sorry. The only caution that I have on that is if there was an ALH placement involved, if they were getting residential services.
No, she was still at home.
Okay, so because that's a big rule, like you can't have the whole package of CFC is based on the idea of someone is living in the community and we're supporting their independence in the community. So you couldn't live in an assisted living environment and get CFC at the same time. So that could result in closure of CFC, like if you moved someone into a placement.
Yeah, no, she was
What
still
you've described.
residence.
Yeah, that's unusual. I would be very interested in the case if you want to copy me on that as well. I would like to kind of see you understand what happened there because we do have a need for giving extensive time for closures because things shift really. As you all know, time is very fluid for long-term care. We can be in a hospital and then come out of the hospital, can't find staff, suddenly have staff. So we do try to avoid closure as much as possible. So thank you for reaching out on it, and we'll try to look at that a little bit closer. Yeah, that is. So I'm reading Nathan's comment about level of cares being issued for the NFLOC side when you have PCS. And I am aware of this protocol. It is a tricky one because they're holding off on processing they're holding off on doing the PCS review and calculating the PCS service plan until you find the agency. But sometimes it's hard to find the agency if you don't have the hours calculated. So I understand this dynamic. And we have talked with the teams about that, but there's kind of a dynamic regarding the order of operations. And so at this time, that's how it's operating. We can bring that back to the teams though and let them know that you're continuing to have difficulty with that dynamic.
I will say that I have called Melissa Mead and just said, look, I'm in a sticky situation. I kind of need to know what's approved here to move forward. The family needs to know that before we move forward. And she's helped me do the math and looked at that and said, I'm not making 100% firm on it, but I'm going to give you this, this is what I see from your assessment. So there are ways the state can help with that, I think, in those situations where it hasn't been issued.
Yeah, and I think you're always welcome to come to office hours and we can, one of the benefits of office hours is that we can call upon staff and find you answers for some of these case specific situations where you need a consult on like, well, like based on what we see, can we get like a ballpark so I can have a conversation with an agency? But understanding, like Denise said, that it's not the final determination. Great question, Amy. For office hours, so we have 2 office hour blocks on Thursdays. We have the 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning, and then we do have the provider office hour, which you guys are providers, you can come from 3 to 4 in the afternoon on Thursdays as well. So if you miss the morning session, you can always come in the afternoon, and we can work from there. So Danny, I'm reading your question. What about when an assessor makes an observation but then scores it differently? Well, when you have situations where you're concerned about the quality of the service being delivered, you can always file a quality assurance report, even if it's against me, like a state employee. You can also reach out to the unit manager as well if you want to, maybe not go that path. You can always take that another way. And our assessor, unit manager, we have a new one. Since
Coming soon, right? It's like the end of May.
Yes, very soon. So we'll have a new unit manager for that team, and we'll give you that information. Okay. And then if you do find that you need assistance and you can't make it to office hours, you can always reach out and we can see if we can schedule a one-on-one with you, either training or CAT. We need we need to be able to look at our calendars and make sure we have space to do that for you. Sometimes that's the tricky part. All right, so we're at 2:40 and the chats are slowing down a slight amount. So Rebecca's asking, is there a draft of the proposed regulatory conditions of participation for the new acuity level child FAM habilitative home? Those
So
aren't released yet.
it's my understanding that we're still working on that. So we don't have anything to add or update right now today. But great question.
Keep your eyes on some of those, please, because they're just so new. We really will need your feedback and thoughts on them.
All right, when it comes up to 2:45 or so, we'll take a vote on if people want to end the session. Don't worry, we'll still give you an hour of CEH. It's equivalent. We'll say it's equivalent. Any thoughts, questions? Questions for training?
Special topics or requests for training?
Check out our resource library online. We'll be adding to it. We have a whole lot to put in. Just have to go through my files going back many years now, but we'll put it in there. Update on Harmony. Are things settled with the glitches and issues with work lost, or does it seem to have settled with the recent patches?
That's cute.
Team, anything? I don't have an update on that. We see that it gets updated and that they're planned so far ahead. I haven't heard that I haven't heard that it's gotten worse.
Right. I haven't heard any new new issues. It's sad to say. I haven't heard about any new issues. I think the speed has improved a little bit, at least for me, and I've heard from a couple of care coordinators that the
I think
speed is getting better.
that's a new update coming May 12th. Harmony is going to be down May 12th. Am I correct? I think I'm correct.
I think so. There was a notice.
So enjoy your Mother's Day for all you mothers. Don't try to work. Harmony will be down.
But there is like a routine maintenance on Sundays. So that is a common practice that's happening. So that might be different.
Okay, question about training. Is there a training we can refer group homes to regarding goals and objectives? I've been helping out as much as I can, but there seems to be a big learning curve for some homes. Yes, there is training in our learning management system. A home admin would be welcome to go in there. It's about documentation, and so we do cover that. And there's other trainings there that they could probably take advantage of that are related to that. So yeah, just have them check out our training site. They can enter, they can get connected, they can come to us and provide our office hours, they can request training specific to them. We're always working on new training. We're getting ready to issue updated training for anybody, including homes or anybody who's touches the work around the support plan about day habilitation with the new regs going into effect. So we'll have that coming out quite soon. Stay tuned for that. I think we talked about that at the last info share that we had. Question says, I have a FamHab family who wants to go on vacation. Had lots of discussion about not being able to bill outside of the home. If we transfer services to supported living, then the HAB provider has to be hired since they are contracted. Yeah, the family HAB is not, the staff isn't, the service of family HAB isn't, paid on a 24-hour basis when they're outside the home. I don't know about the wording about transferring services or whatever, but if the family wants to, if they want to have supported living, if the person wants to have supported living instead, then a HAB provider has to deliver that. So the HAB provider has to work for an agency, and the supported living provider would be a staff assigned to do that work through that agency. So there's that. There's other services that are available while people are outside of their home community. There's PCS available. There's respite available. Family HAB homes can have respite, but it can't be the same people doing the work giving themselves respite. So a separate provider would have to do that. Maybe there's a different agency that would provide that. It's hard for me to process that through without knowing more specifics about it. But generally, it is the only option. The concept that somebody would be paid to do a different service that's not the 24-hour service, that is a service that can be provided outside the home community.
Like FamHab home is in the home, right, where the person lives. You can't take the FamHab day service outside of the home. You can't be somewhere else and providing family rehabilitation because that is a residential service. So it has to be where the person lives.
We know they're doing the same thing. I mean, we've heard this kind of expression for quite a long time, and it's not wrong. Those thoughts aren't wrong. It's just that it's not the residential waiver service. It's not going to comply because it's not in the home. Okay, waiver folks who want to go out of state for an extended stay, like with their retired snowbird parents that don't want to use waiver services while out of state. Is there a way to pause the waiver or Medicaid while they are gone, then start it and services when they come back to Alaska? Okay. Here are my best thoughts on that. It is possible to write a support plan for a partial year. You don't have to, request services 365. It's possible to tell that story of, they're going to be gone for a couple of months or something like that. The waiver wouldn't go out, wouldn't expire just because they aren't receiving services during a period of time, because it's like a planned out thing, makes sense, and we know that. What you're going to have to help the family and the person work on is going to be Medicaid eligibility. Medicaid eligibility with DPA. So generally, DPA requires the person to remain in Alaska and not be gone for more than 30 days. So they have to work with their caseworker, and their caseworker will help them work out how Medicaid itself could possibly work for a person who is going to be gone more than 30 days. Now, this may not match exactly what people experience now today, but it's my understanding that if the person tells Medicaid that they intend to return to Alaska, Alaska is their home, it is their main home, they are not going to get any Medicaid services of any kind while they're out of state, or apply for Medicaid in another state, or do anything that makes it even look or smell like they're going to get Medicaid in 2 states at the same time or more, then they could possibly have an approval to remain active with Alaska Medicaid while out of state because they have an intent to return. Now, all those forms and all those documents and discussions are not something I have to give out, but it is a conversation between the person and their DPA caseworker. They could possibly approve it, or they have approved it. Thanks. All right, it says a family has subsistence activities in their village for roughly 3 months. I was wanted to transfer care coordination for those 3 months, so services are continued. Is this doable? I'm not sure I'm getting it, to transfer care coordination, but it's totally doable. Again, we've answered this before, and this might be wrong in your case. I mean, not wrong, but we've had people put 2 residences on a support plan, as one of them is when they're in one community and the other one is when they're doing subsistence activities, and that's like another residence in Alaska for that person. So it really isn't treated as out of home community because they've listed 2 home communities in the plan.
Yeah, I think
So
the question is if, you can transfer to a different care coordinator, but,
okay, I get it.
it depends on the
Sorry, I missed
planning.
that.
No, you're good. And you're right. You can have multiple addresses, which is really helpful if you're doing like a re application and you're like, we're at fish camp right now. Like, we're not going to be at our primary residence. You can list both addresses. So you're right about that. When it comes to transferring care coordination, it's a matter of what the planning team can do best. What does the person want, how you can make it work. But it is possible as a care coordinator to, if your certification doesn't currently serve the area that they're going to be located in, you can update your certification so that you do serve that area if that's a barrier. Another avenue is to get another care coordinator on board to support in that community for that period of time. So that's an alternative option. But due to changes to care coordination contacts, it is possible to do those distance deliveries contacts over the phone at that over that time frame, and then you would just make sure that you have that in person. before or after that 3-month period so that you're really well placed in that planning year of 6 months between visits. So you'd want to make sure you touch base with them in person before or after that so that you have your distance delivery your in-person staggered over time. Okay, so if you don't have the region to provide that service, I got you. There's a couple
You
of
could add
things
it.
that I would talk to the agency and ask them to add that certification location. It's your care coordination agency and you as a care coordinator. I would ask to add it. It's not a big lift to add it. It's an update to the form, and then even if it's just for one client, I highly recommend it in the context of continuity of care delivery, of, making sure that you have somebody continuously in contact and making sure that that person is receiving their services and or in a safe environment. And let me see if I can grab that form. That might help if you can see the form that I'm referencing.
So I was wrong in my communication in the chat. It's actually an easy 2-page form, and it is the Cert 6 on the approved forms page.
Thank you. I'm pulling it up, looking for it right now.
Me and you both.
We have a lot of forms. There we go. The service declaration. All right. Last call. We have 3 minutes till the top of the hour, so dump your questions in you might have so we can help you out.
Okay, questions about care coordinator billing numbers taking a long time. We have brought this to the attention of our leadership quite a bit. Our leadership is working on barriers to timely issuing of enrollment numbers for care coordinators and other services. It's quite a bit of collaboration, and we have definitely brought that up. So I don't have updates on it, but it is a known problem and something that we want to fix so that people can get enrolled in a more timely manner. PCAs as well. It's affects people because their worker can't be enrolled for quite a long time. And then the worker quits because they're not getting any hours because they're not enrolled. We are aware of these issues and have brought them up to our leadership, and they're the ones that are working on it right now. Yeah, I think that care coordinators are doing everything they can. There's nothing different that a care coordinator could or should do, and same thing for PCS admin. I think they're doing everything they can. Um, it's it's a it's a collaboration between, a lot of it's Gainwell, um, and different issues surrounding Gainwell. So that's what our leadership does, hoping to smooth that out so people have a better experience. All right. So we're up at 2:59. I'm going to go ahead and close the session. Thank you so much for your great questions, and I wish we had more resolution on some of these key issues, but we are working on it, and we're not going to stop. And bringing your feedback through on behalf of people you serve. So we really appreciate that. Um, Please, if you get a chance, check out our resource library, and um, wait for our email that says keep this email. Make sure and keep it. We don't send another copy or a certificate. It just works out better for everybody this way. So if you're here, you'll get 1 hour CEH, and any questions you can direct to us at sdstraining@alaska.gov. Okay. Yep, we're working on our website too. That's a work in progress. So everything is getting updated. I know training was sort of simplified, so everybody's sort of responsible for their own little unit. So, website's getting worked on as well. But anyway, have a great afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. Look for our
Thank you.
communication, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye-bye for now.